solution. Maybe we'll come up with another one. And as what's his name, Tom Holman's always says, his biggest fear is the getaways, because the getaways are he's worried, and I think legitimately, that they're terrorists, criminals, gang members, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So comparing the illegal immigrant population, I also want to point out this is not anti-immigrant. This is anti-illegal immigrant. And I agree that it's heavy-handed. I agree that it's excessive. I vigorously dispute the motivation, which I think is irrational, the attribution of that this is done to be cruel or done as some racist thing, or that it's racial profiling for that matter. And I also dispute that it's indiscriminate. And I'm going to explain why. These are the bases of the targets, according again to DHS, and other sources. Criminal convictions, outstanding removal orders, recent border crossings, various kinds of intelligence gathering or rubric, surveillance, databases including FBI, DHS, and NCIC. We can go into that. The gang database, and then down at the bottom, facial recognition and plain ordinary shoe leather. So this is, to characterize it as indiscriminate, is just plain false. Now, I want to say again, it's heavy-handed. It looks bad. It is bad. And very bad when American citizens are getting shot. That borders on a 10-state moment for the president, putting him up there with Richard Nixon, except he's not as smart or as capable as Richard Nixon. I don't want to discuss Nixon now. We can do that with Marshall in another room. I bet we'd both love to do that, Marshall. And I obviously say that with esteem. But, so the optics are bad. However, on the other hand, the optics of these sanctuary cities, it is legal to violate or impede federal law. Now, there's been some kind of exception around states' rights that says they don't have to comply with this, and maybe the Supreme Court will resolve that. I think they've addressed part of it previously, but harassing, impeding, blocking the road, screaming at, saying F you. Alex Petty on January 13th said, attack me, while he had a gun in his waistband. That's crazy behavior. That's illegal behavior. Rebecca Good, which is Renee Good's wife.
I'm sorry. What part of that behavior was illegal?
When you have a gun on you and you impede a federal officer doing his duty and say, attack me, those are known as fighting words legally. You're now in big trouble. You're not committing a felony.
I see. So the expression of his First Amendment rights, by saying attack me.
Fighting words are an exception to First Amendment rights. We can go through that.
Questions for Norm. Thank you, Counselor. Thank you, Counselor. You can continue.
Okay.
I'm so happy that you've explained that. Go ahead.
I thought we're not going to be sarcastic tonight.
Okay, I'll take Pat back the part of calling you Counselor.
Okay, and the thank you, which was meant sarcastically. All right. So, as I say, it's not legal. You can't use fighting words when you're armed. You can't commit another felony when you're armed. Those create enhancements, even if the gun is legal. So these are big problems. And I don't think the behavior of politicians rousing the populace to impede, harass, or violate, either by implication or by direct language, the enforcement of federal law. I think it's a very bad idea. So again, just to conclude now, my concluding line, are immigration raids counterproductive? I think they're excessive. I think they're producing an effect that they want, to agree with Aram, that they're really discouraging illegal immigration, and they're tackling a problem that the president was elected to tackle. They're doing it, I think, in a ugly and cruel way, and I think it needs to be done in a less manner.
I would just like to point out that when you stop somebody on the street because of the color of their skin and or their accent, that absolutely meets the definition of racial profiling. Royal, followed by David.
Was it my turn?
Yes, sir.
Oh.
It is.
I apologize. Man, that was a lot there, and it's been a while, so I guess I'll just say this. When you look at the totality of this, first of all, I knew, and plenty of us knew how this was going to go before the 2024 elections. We knew what it'll look like and what the results are. None of this is a surprise, right? So, is it counterproductive? Yes. One reason, this is not about immigration enforcement whatsoever. None of it is. And why do you know that? Because of the fact that when you just walk up to random people, right, just because of the way they look, you go and get them, right? Don't even bother to check their ID. Some people, I'll say that some people are asked for their ID, but for the most part, you see a lot of people say, well, I have my passport. They just ignore it. When you bust down people's doors with no judicial warrant, right? And I'll give you an example. I've seen plenty of evidence where there are obviously African-American families, doors being bust down, and they're like, they just take somebody, right? And it's obvious that these people are African-American. Obviously, none of them are immigrants, right? And then, you see the report later, oh, yeah, they had me for 3 days, trying to prove that I was American citizen. It was like, my family's been here for hundreds of years. None of this makes any sense, right? It shows that this is not about immigration. This is about another tactic. Obviously, they are profiling people, but they're doing this particular of scanning people's faces, and it doesn't matter what their ethnicity is, of races, whatever, what they sound like. They scan people's faces, they're taking pictures of license plates, they're gaining information about who people are. That's the way it looks. Even if that's not the truth, that's the way it looks. And so, hello. You can come up with several conclusions. I'm not going to name what they are, but it's definitely counterproductive to the American way of life. And that's all I see. I don't need to go down another rabbit hole with this. Everybody done said everything that needs to be said, and that's it.
Thank you, Royal. I had not heard until now of ICE specifically raiding the homes of African Americans who were detained and then released because they're American citizens. But I'm doing a quick search. Again, as always, when I do a search during our discussion here, it's a very cursory search. But apparently, there are such cases that have been cited by the ACLU. So that's new information to me and perhaps to others, and I thank you for bringing it to us, Royal. And we'll now go to David, followed by William. And the David we're going to, because we have several, is David Katz. David Katz.
David.
Hello?
Okay. William, followed by David G.
Hey, Gary. Hi, everybody. So, I don't think there's any doubt that what they're doing is racist. And I don't think there's much doubt that they are acting, ICE is acting in bad faith. Is it productive or counterproductive? It's counterproductive. You go into a city where if you came into the city and you said to the any law enforcement, I have criminals for which I've got a warrant and I want to apprehend criminals. Doesn't matter if it's criminal immigrants or not. You would get 100% cooperation from any police department in any blue city or any city in the United States, and it would be for a minimal amount of cost, and there would be no pushback because it's job of police to go after criminals. And if they wanted to do it cost-effectively, they could have allocated in that big, beautiful bill a small increase for the budgets of local law enforcement all over the country to do a more effective job. And law enforcement going after criminals would have no problem because that's not controversial. It's not controversial in Philadelphia or Scranton or Pittsburgh or any of the small towns and cities, New York, New Jersey. Not controversial anywhere that I go on any regular basis because we support the police and the police go after criminals. So all they had to do was take an approach that would not cost a whole hell of a lot of money relative to the creating another branch of the service bigger than the Marine Corps. That could have been done efficiently. So that wasn't the motivation of why they're doing this. The motivation of why they're doing this is counterproductive because they come into the cities as an invading army, as an invading force, and what they're doing, they're not going after immigrants. They're putting on theater. They're having these fat bastards cosplaying. They're giving them a bonus and getting the dregs of the dregs. Probably a bunch of Jan 6ers. I've heard reported, and I can't prove it.
They hired all the J6ers to do the immigration custom enforcement operations? Hello?
In front of the El Salvador Forever prison, and she's down there, in her outfit du jour, trying to send a message of cruelty, trying to send a message of we're going to discipline the nation with an iron hand. And so if they're not going after immigration, and it doesn't seem logically like they are trying to intimidate the population, put in their minds that it's normal to see the Trump army on the street, and probably, and we'll see, deploy those guys to intimidate voters and make free and fair elections a lot more difficult in November of this year. So, I think there's a lot of other evidence and a lot of other things that are more likely that they're trying to do than immigration enforcement. One other thing I wanted to make a correction of. I put it in the chat. There's something called a Bivens action. Bivens actions are for when federal agents break into a home without a warrant and wreak havoc and cause people damages and beat them up and things like that. And so I put that in detail in the chat. And before I said that, I want to correct myself. I said that you could bring a civil rights action under 42 U.S.C. Section 1983, and that was my mistake because that's really intended for state and local law enforcement for a civil action, a violation of civil rights. So if your local police do that, that would be 42 U.S.C. 1983. But the Bivens action, and I have the case site in there, that's what's brought to go after the federal government. It's more limited than the 42 U.S.C. 1983 civil rights action. It's much more limited, but at least for all these warrantless searches of people's homes, when they're going into people's homes and roughing them up and breaking in without warrants with their masks on and in their military costumes with real firearms, they can be held accountable for damages they do to the homes.
Power of the
Boom!
rush.
I'm not sure if there's any, if that would apply to people getting attacked on their own driveway or on the sidewalk, but at least for breaking into the homes, you can bring a Bivens action. So I want to
Hello?
correct what I said before. And yeah, I think it's pretty clearly racist. And I think there's a lot of proof to substantiate that. Thanks.
Racist! Ah!
I just want to clarify
Woo,
something.
woo, 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 woo.
What Norm said. Norm talked about Preddy shouting fighting words at the agents.
I watched those tapes over and over again. It was so shocking. It's so shocking to see a citizen gunned down on the street. And I really watched it in detail, forensically, because I knew I couldn't count on DHS, Kristi Noem, or Kash Patel to do it. So I did it myself. He said no such thing. He didn't say.
Well, it could be that he was referring to the first incident 13 days earlier, January 13th. So in the second incident in which he was shot, I saw as well, which is what caused me to, I thought I was getting new information here from Norm, and maybe my eyes and ears deceived me. I could find nothing, as you could find nothing.
He was filming. He was holding up in his hand a cell phone.
Hold on a second, Wim. But on the January 13th incident, he did shout at the agents.
I don't know. I didn't look at that one in detail.
Okay, if you let me... are you through?
Yeah.
Thank you. The January 13th incident, he did shout at the agents. And I've looked at several sources, several news sources, and they all are reporting that he shouted, "Fuck you." He shouted, "Trash." And he shouted, "What are you doing here?"
All protected speech.
Hello?
Right. I don't think those are fighting words.
Woo,
I'm
woo, 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 woo,
not
woo, 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 woo,
a
woo, woo.
counselor at law either, but you are.
It's protected speech. You can say "fuck you" to the cops. They might, on a good day, they might rough you up for that. That's possible, because cops aren't perfect. So it's not generally advisable to badmouth a cop. There's not a lot of upside in it, but it's constitutionally protected speech. It's not fighting words. It's not calling them out and asking for a fight. It is especially taking into account the totality of the circumstances where they're an invading army in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and St. Paul, Minnesota, and the surrounding suburbs. They're there to terrorize people, and for people to stand up and fight back, that is their constitutional redress of grievances, because they don't have the Senate, they don't have the House, they really don't have the courts. The lower courts, yes, get some help in the lower courts at the district level or the state levels. The district courts have been pretty good. The appellate courts have been pretty good. But people who oppose what Trump is doing don't have the Supreme Court, don't have the House, don't have the Senate, and can't rely on the separation between the president and the institutions like the FBI or the Department of Justice, which people used to be able to go to. Even when the president was acting badly back, that's not Nixon. And I'm glad he mentioned John Bolton, because I forgot about that, with the $25,000. Everybody held oh God, mistaken. But the last time I saw that was that I read clearly was when Spiro Agnew was getting bags of cash in the vice presidential office from a table in his
Way off talking about
outside. So wasn't brandishing the gun, it was concealed. If it's concealed, they didn't see it. Once they saw it, then they knew he was disarmed.
Right. And also, I would imagine if he had shouted, "I'll shoot you," or "You're dead," or something like that, or if the gun was carried illegally, or if the officers reasonably perceived an imminent threat, something like that, then it might escalate to a felony. But otherwise, is it not just the same as if I do not own a gun, were yelling "fuck you" to the cops?
The gun is almost irrelevant because it wasn't brandished. It was concealed on him, so that wasn't part of the equation of what the ICE people were looking at. He was oriented towards that woman who he was trying to help, who got pepper sprayed or whatever, and then
He shoved back on her back. That was what he was trying to assist her.
Yeah, he had been filming, then he went to help the woman. As he was doing that, he got shoved to the ground and shot in the back. They didn't, before they shoved him to the ground, they didn't see him doing anything that was threatening or anything other than filming and exercising First Amendment rights and helping that woman out, who they pepper sprayed, and she fell, and he went to help her.
Right. I think everybody has a right to their opinion, and the opinion that Norm expressed, that it was a stupid thing to do what he did, is a fine opinion to make. But to state a fact, we should be correct on what the facts are. And I had never heard that before, and that's what caused me to look it up. And I appreciate you as an attorney at law clarifying it. Yeah, Howard.
Yeah, Gary, if I can, I actually wanted to put you on the hot seat for a second.
It's supposed to be Howard on the hot seat.
I know.
Oh my God.
Turn around. So, to the best of your knowledge, other than William, have we had any other attorneys speak today?
Is Ben an attorney? I don't know.
Okay.
Ben is indeed an attorney.
Right.
Okay, so we've had two. That, to the best of our knowledge, two.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I may have said it sarcastically when I referred to Norm.
There will be no sarcasm and no mockery.
Thank you, William. We'll go to David, followed by Odeon.
Hey, Gary, thanks for the stage here today and to talk about this topic. I think we need to understand that the logic of what we're talking about stems from the sizable bureaucratic budget that was allocated for this. By definition, when you allocate billions of dollars toward a campaign centered around intimidation and abuse and any means necessary approach. I mean, I'm using that very kind of aggressively, but you're going to have raids that result in the outcomes that we're seeing. And at the levels that we're seeing them, and also with the quotas that are behind warning this kind of expenditure. But it behooves Americans to understand that by taxing us to do this, there's also the direct effect of costing the economy in the form of suppressed labor shortages, foot traffic from small businesses and restaurants, and people not spending money, people staying home fearful of ICE raids. In California here, there are many academic institutions that are studying this firsthand, and businesses are telling them that they're having to shutter their doors. Bankruptcy filings are up. They're saying that this chilling effect is worse than what they faced under COVID. And so let that sink in for a little bit. In Texas, in the Rio Grande Valley, where Marshall hails from, the construction companies are not able to complete projects.
Right. We actually pretty extensively covered that earlier. You're absolutely.
So that's just one major industry in a red state. And so, the response was, well, what do we do about this? Well, the business owners were being interviewed. They were talking about warrantless searches. They were talking about the fact that we don't have a pathway to citizenship. If you're going to be a business, in my opinion, and you're going to benefit the economy off of this labor that wants to be here to work, that doesn't want to cause problems, that wants to take care of their families, send money home, not get in the crosshairs of the law, then the administration, with all of its reasons and smart people that they have talking about how to rein this in with ICE raids, can do the exact opposite and go to their think tanks and say, hey, how can we keep these people employed properly within the law? Maybe there's some powerful executive summaries executive decisions I could put forward. Spend the money to create a pathway. Spend the money to tell these people, look, you're welcome here. Have these companies and corporations vouch for these workers. Professional opinions. This person so-and-so has worked for me for 5 years without a problem or incident. Have these companies backstop these laborers with bonds, whatever they have to do to say they are providing a valuable service to me and my corporation and my company, and without them, I'm out of business, or I'm going to be less productive or profitable. One thing America's about, Gary, it's about making money, and when you don't have labor to make money, who's going to do the jobs? So this is really this zealotry to rain down on these immigrants, is really bad for business. It's bad for the economy. It's bad for the tax base, and it's bad for the morale that we need to have in this country. The Super Bowl. I think that the Bad Bunny performance was a direct shot across the bow at that very thing. So, they're counterproductive, Gary, for the reasons I just stated. Not to mention the blowback that we're getting around the world. They don't want us there in the Olympics. They're not going to want to come here during the World Cup. And, of course, our Olympics in 2 years here in Los Angeles. What is that going to look like? So, at the end of the day, at a minimum, I think we got to put our heads together and say, okay, how can we fast track these people? And a lot of these people, Gary, they don't have the money to cough up to an attorney, let alone wait out the process, and let alone see their fellow immigrants being rounded up when they follow the law. The poor kid that made international exposure to what had happened to him, that dad was from Ecuador. He had filed all the proper procedures to be in this country. So they have no excuse. They have nothing to back their policies against, really, other than the fact that because they have the money spent, they have these ICE agents in masks, then they want to go out and have retribution because a few of them got disrespected in these rallies or whatever the case may be. It doesn't give them a right to run roughshod over a process that we created that they're trying to implement. So anyway, I'll end there. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm continuing my fact checking here. And I will acknowledge I'm not reading from the DHS website because I can't pay attention to the room and read the full data. I have to read other reporters' previous analysis of the data. As I read during the opening remarks, 65% of the people taken into ICE custody had no criminal conviction. That's according to the Cato Institute. Not some progressive Marxist anarchist organization, Cato. Only about 7%, according to Cato, had any violent conviction. Visa Verge has several stories about this that I just perused that show that in late 2025, and I believe this was September of 2025, 71.5%, here we go with the 70% figure, 71.5% of ICE detainees had no criminal convictions at all. So something's wrong here. Either all this reporting is wrong, and if so, Norm has really exposed maybe a conspiracy to mislead the American public. I don't know. Visa Verge also reports that internal ICE documents from mid-2025 indicate that less than 10% of immigrants booked into custody had serious criminal convictions: murder, rape, or robbery, sexual assault. Something's wrong here. I don't know which recitation of the DHS statistics is accurate and which isn't, and I apologize for that. But if any of you are interested, please feel free to go to the DHS site and see for yourself. It could be that all these news organizations are dramatically misstating the facts. Odie and Ware, followed by Dr. Mitch, and then F. Grade.
Thank you very much, Gary. I came to your room. Good evening to everyone. So this is a topic that interests me so much because, as you all know, I am an immigrant. And let me start with the premise. I'm not going to be deceived with my own eyes. This is clearly a racist policy by Trump. I'm not among those people that don't is a racist. I think he's a racist, but it's okay. I mean, like I've told you several times, I think that racism is okay. Just admit it. You know what I mean? I'm not going to stop anybody from being racist, so I can't fight Trump. Can I fight his racist supporters?
No, of course we have no way of changing what's in the hearts, the souls, and the minds of others.
So if you listen from White House gossip about Stephen Miller, those are what he promotes. So let me give you a classical example. I'm a citizen, right, Gary? Citizen. You know how I became a citizen? I went through the right process. I remember when I was filing for my citizenship, I had a $40 speeding ticket. DHS, Department of Homeland Security, under USCIS, sent me a mail that I'm owing Baltimore County, where I live, $40. Gary, I don't care about the mail. How the hell did the USCIS know that I'm owing a speeding ticket of $40? But I paid it anyway. What am I trying to say? That all these things are interlinked. How people become citizens, going through the right process, and I became a citizen. Trump is a racist. So I see what they do to the Somalis. Now, let me be honest with you, I'm not very apathetic to the Somalis. I fight them in our own African way. But the average ICE person doesn't know the difference between a Somali and a Nigerian. I mean, there's a video of them questioning a Somali man saying, where were you born? You're not from here. You don't have the same accent like me. Gary, the video is there. The Somali guy came on CNN. And you expect me to see that? I say, oh no. If ICE is saying they are looking for criminals, can't look for criminals. But you're going around asking people because of your accent. I have an accent. Well, I'm a citizen and I have power. So I like what is going on, Gary. They should continue with the immigration raids because you know why? It furthers my political agenda. Gary, it furthers my political agenda. And it goes back to what I told you when before Trump wins. I said, don't worry. America will implode from within. They should continue doing. What they are doing is that they are radicalizing people. I mean, you see Hispanics. I work a lot of Hispanics who are citizens. They see those videos. And you think they're not radicalized? Like you think that they are seeing what ICE is doing. And they're doing to people that look like them. There's a guy in Target, you saw that video. He was dragged out of his work, an American citizen. When they found out he was a citizen, they dumped him. People have seen those things. What I want my party to do, the Democrats, don't play. You see that boy, that Liam boy, just play the video. Play it everywhere. Let people become radicalized. My own younger brother is a 3-time Trump voter. He lives in North Carolina. He's not supporting Trump. He's almost anti-Trump like me. Why? Because when Trump came to Raleigh, where he lives. He has a business. It's the wealthiest of all of our brothers. He has this Airbnb business. Him and my cousins, they're living very good life. There's a woman they all like. She's a nanny. She cleans their Airbnb. They know how they've developed a relationship with her. The woman was not coming to work. She was calling them worried, petrified, herself, her people. On the other part, my younger brother had to take up another job. Guy, you know what he was doing? He had to go clean the Airbnb himself. Because he has to put his customer, he has to make money. If his cleaner was not coming, who's going to clean it? He has to do it. He couldn't find anybody. People talk about coming to America legally. And when you ask them, how do you come to America legally? They don't even know what they're talking about. The 1986 INA Act says that you must come to a point of entry, which is a problem. Meaning that before you file for asylum claims, you must be in America. So if you walk through the border, come by air, and you file for asylum, you're going through a process. How do you explain? Oh, they say I'm against illegal immigration. How do you explain that ICE is going to cut hearings? People following through the process that Americans want. How do you explain that people on asylum claims, Christine Noem and Trump are making them illegal? How do you explain people on temporary protected status that have a pathway, Trump and Christine Noem are making them illegal? So you cannot pick and choose. You cannot wake up and say that you are against illegal immigration. And at the same time, you are stopping legal migration. So it's either you come out and say openly, which I know that's what they want, you are against immigration. Right now, my wife has a green card. My daughter is a citizen. I am a citizen. My wife can no longer be a citizen because Trump has banned over 100 countries, African poor countries, from becoming citizens in America. So please tell me how is it not racist? How? But you know the good thing? The good thing is that the Republicans are feeling it. Marsha knows who Maria Salazar is. She has been shouting. Carlos Gimenez, South Florida Republicans. They come out to me and say it, that this immigration thing is going to haunt the Republicans. I mean, the strange thing about it, Gary, is that Trump has messed up a policy that he has the greatest advantage of. The reason why Trump won was immigration and trans issue to me, because I campaigned. But all of a sudden, immigration is now a minus on his part. All the folks have him as a minus, minimum eating. Something that is so strong on him. Something that he ran on, something that won in the election. But the one thing said not to something about you. I don't want to something else. I want him to continue to come to Baltimore where I live. And continue the race. I'll be sorry. I want him to continue. They went for me. When they start calling me. Today that they know what they are doing. And thank God for complaint. But they're hiding because what they're doing is cruel and shameful. But Gary, thank you for your time. Marshall, as I told you before, I'm ticking off the boxes of America collapse. I know you guys don't like to hear it, but I'm ticking off those boxes. They should continue with the immigration raid. It favors me politically. Thank you.
Well, your main point, which you circle back to at the end, causes me to think back to what Barbie said about the intent is to be mean, and then Norm countering, no, the meanness is a tactic. The intent is to get rid of dangerous illegal criminals. But maybe we should contemplate, based on what Odienware just told us, the possibility that the intent is to divide the nation. It has been documented, this is not an opinion, this is a fact, that the Russian government and other governments have a campaign that's been going on for a number of election cycles so far, not necessarily to get their favorite candidates into office, but to cause us to argue among ourselves, a house divided. Is that the intent of what is occurring right now? I hadn't given that much thought before. I thought that maybe what is happening is in effect dividing us further. But Odienware brings up an excellent point. Worth contemplating. I'm not arguing it, I'm contemplating. Is the intent to divide the nation so that the nation will fall? It's something I think we ought to at least think about as a possibility. Thank you for mentioning that again, Odie. You've said it many times in the past, but it really resonated with me today. Dr. Mitch, followed by F. Grady, and S500 got back on the stage after falling off, so we'll get to that person.
Gary, hi everyone. Dr. Mitchell, actually, I work as an expert witness. And I just wanted to mention that even if you have every due process right that these immigrations are not getting, if you're ever wrongly accused of a crime, or anybody in your family is, you have to go through that process. So people know regular due process that they're saying that you're not entitled to. It's not difficult, it's expensive, it's a horrible process. And without the due process rights, it's almost like a violation of human rights. So that's my opinion. I work in the system. I wanted to mention the possibility as well. All the sentencing here, all the private prisons that has been given massive contracts. I suspect it's going to look like $1 billion that's coming out of their beautiful business. You know, this administration is everybody seems to have the thing that they're focused on. If you look at the money limit, I don't know, maybe $75 billion is a lot. That's how we want. And they're building all these new immigration facilities, which, further the prison industrial complex, which has been really, really bad for a very long time. You won't really know that until someone in your family is innocently accused of a crime. So I wanted to bring that up. Regarding David made a comment about labor shortage. I want to talk about the other end of the spectrum, which is the brain drain. I've got friends that run universities, Salk Institute. I work with the scientific community, Hertz Foundation, other very high-profile organizations, and all of them are experiencing a brain drain. Engineers and scientists, doctors, people of high caliber, professors do not want to come to the United States. They don't want to be treated like criminals. If you talk about counterproductive, this is a time in history when we need the smartest minds in the world. The technology is moving very, very quickly. And if we can't attract the smartest minds to America, they're going to go somewhere else. The Chinese government is happy to set you up in a lab in Switzerland or Singapore or the beautiful location of your choice, pay you to go to that lab and work for them and unlock the secrets of the scientific future. They're happy to do it while we're, kind of waving around $100,000 fee to bring experienced and intelligent people to get a visa to come here and give us their knowledge. I think I'm close to Samsung, and they had all those engineers in Atlanta who basically were castigated. They came here to teach us for free engineering knowledge and technology that we didn't have, and they've said that they're not coming back. They don't care. So this is the brain, the other side of the spectrum, not just people cutting your grass and picking your vegetables, but we've got a serious problem. I mean, people are not thinking of, I don't think politicians think about outcomes in the future, but this is one of the biggest threats to our nation, is that other countries gain superior knowledge to us in this way. The other thing I wanted to tell you, so again, profit motive. I think, I don't know how much is politics and how much is profits, but there is a large profit motive to, I mean, they want to build 23 more immigration jails. I think it just doesn't.
Converting warehouses, by the way, warehouses is what they're using.
Yeah, I mean, is this a productive, and while they're kicking people off of food stamps, hello, we're not a poor nation. We shouldn't have people living in the streets. I was in LA a few weeks ago. Hello. There are more people living in the street than there are in the buildings. It's just like, it's every major city in America has homeless, hungry people. We're not a poor country. We need to bring some compassion home here. And the immigrants add to our strength of this country. And I don't see ICE picking up criminals and rapists and murderers and people from insane asylums. I see them going on the taxi line at airports and asking the people for their citizenship. They're out there driving cars because a lot of them are from foreign nations. I think Odion might have somebody brought it up. Like, they're going to Home Depot. They're not going in there with with assault teams to catch dangerous criminals. They're looking for people that are easy to catch so they can keep their numbers. That's what they're doing. And somebody else said, it was David said, even in major blue cities, people wouldn't object to some kind of a legitimate due process where people are actually they're committing crimes with their dangerous gangs, and then everybody would celebrate. And I think several people have said people going in there with masks on their face that are not proud of what they're doing, staging a show for the cameras and separating families. It's really disgusting. And I think this whole nation, all immigrants here, everybody came to this country, grandparents and great-grandparents, them came to this country in search of something better, come here to bring all their knowledge and experience to add to our cake, to be treated in that way. And it's going to be very helpful. I'm suspecting in the years to come, this is going to look back on this major way. West is from the manufacturers, federal agents, prosecution for citizens. That's a very big central, very important. And I think it is a general policy. Pretty much any whatever it doesn't encourage
Okay, sir. And that's the end of the contact. Why aren't you just, if you have nothing to hide, why are you hiding? But I have the right to not talk to the police or law enforcement unless they have due cause to stop me and question me. I understand the Terry stop and all that. I don't want to get into all that in this discussion here. I'm just speaking in generalities. And so imagine they say, okay, fuck you. Put your hands behind your back. We'll sort this out later. And they take you into detention. So you're held in detention for 12 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours, and then you're released. There are those who would say, no big deal, no harm, no foul. You were an idiot, Gary, for standing up for your Fifth Amendment rights when they were not even necessary. All you had to do was take the easy way out and say, hey, I'm an American citizen, dude. What's your problem? I think that's where we are today, Mitch. Also, to his point about people coming from other nations or not coming from other nations, this is something that's not talked about a lot. We talk a lot about the construction workers and the gardeners and the farm workers who are doing jobs that Americans don't want to do, and how horrible it is that they're getting literally picked off the fields and deported. But there's another angle to this story as well, and that is the brain drain and the lack of an expanding intelligentsia in our nation. And I can tell you,
how do you mean
that
Has there been another nation that's
there's a shortage of nurses
targeted for
in this country,
genocide?
and that's why.
as another country, you're speaking about the Holocaust in Germany, right? In Europe. I don't know what he was asking. And where did he go? If you said the world hates Israel, I want you to provide me the names of the countries up to 50%.
Everyone.
How many countries in the world? 230 something? I don't know. 280? You have to tell me 50% of that plus one more. And you have to show
But I just read
that each country is hostile. They hate Israel.
How it was revealed to you.
Not just because it's critical of the government, not just critical of the idea, but hatred of the country.
God knows how to reveal itself to
I
somebody.
don't think anyone will be.
Yet it's going to do it in a way that
Charlie,
the person
next
that
year.
is getting the revelation doesn't know how this revelation is getting to them and what this revelation is. So that's a problem, Andrew.
If I may, JC, hey, hold on, guys. I think JCC, you missed the last 15 minutes of the conversation because the conversation is not about whether or not God exists. That's not the conversation.
You're right. I was just responding to what he said.
No, that's cool, JCC. That's cool.
You're 100% right, Steve, and so I'll just say a super short response, JC, just for you. Look,
Let's throw
I
something
can
at
know
the-
what the revelation is, but not know how the revelation was given. I don't know the mechanism by the way which God has communicated it to me. It can be, you can call it telepathy or however you want to look at it. But the point is, he's an omnipotent being that has that capability.
In a way,
And
together
unless you can
is
show some
crazy.
logical contradiction or some metaphysical impossibility for God to do, I mean, I know you think he doesn't exist, but I'm saying if he exists,
Yeah, go with that. Hold on, Andrew. Go with that.
And by the way, now we just transferred into whether or not God exists. Take it.
No, I just heard an atheist said God does exist. So continues.
Who said that God? Who said that? What atheist?
You. I just heard you. I just heard somebody say.
I did not say that.
Okay. I thought.
What you drinking, Luke?
God spoke to him right now, but he doesn't know why he said it to him.
yeah, and it's not a matter. Well, look, you may not know God's motives for revealing something to you. You may not know how he did it, but you can know that he did it.
No, that's not. That once again, that's an insertion.
No. Listen, that just follows from is that we're saying God is.
How do you know it's God and not something else?
it's a fucking nuance type of question, dude.
You could be wrong, but you have no reason to. At least in my case, I have no reason to believe it's not God. So.
Because you gave yourself no reason, because you believe in it so deeply.
You're just claiming.
You're making the claim, not me.
No, but hear what I'm saying. You're claiming that I don't have a good reason, and I just inserted that. But that's kind of, you're just really kind of just begging the question against my view. I'm saying God.
Exactly, your view is the question to be questioned, right? Because what you just said is, I can know something that I don't know why he made me believe. I don't know what made me say it, but I'm going to say it's God because I believe in God, so it is definitely God. But you don't know that it was God.
Yeah, Andrew, prior to you receiving this revelation, right, that you don't know how you received it, but yet you know you received it, were you a God-believing individual?
Wait, what was the last thing? Can you say it one more time?
Before you had this revelation, did you believe in God?
No.
You had no belief in the God?
No. Nope. And I remember when it distinctly happened, and then since then, obviously, I've had the belief.
Okay.
But
so you weren't exposed to religion or anything at all?
Oh no, I definitely was. I mean.
Okay. What religion were you already exposed to?
Various strains of Christianity, probably some other, who knows what.
What was that based on?
Probably Mormonism. Briefly when I was young and didn't know what it was. Probably some stuff like that.
But God and Jesus were mentioned to you, yes?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. And look, I don't make any qualms about that because that doesn't do anything as far as, because people try to get a lot of mileage, and I'm not saying you're doing it, but people try to get a lot of mileage out of this idea. Well, you were indoctrinated, and they say that about people that are of faith or whatever, but that's the same as atheism or any other belief. The issue is if your parents raise you. Well, it is, but if atheism
is a denial of a belief.
No, atheism is the belief that there is no God. So
atheism is a denial of somebody else's positive belief.
That's what Donald says, and Donald has basically Donald came into a room and about 10 people were trying to help him, atheist and theist, because he was saying things like, unless somebody demonstrates something, you should believe it's false. That is a terrible principle. But that was his view. Unless somebody, he's like, I deny. You're an atheist. He said, yep, I deny God. He said, I deny the acceptance of God.
And the Oxford Dictionary definition of atheist: a person who disbelieves in the existence of God or gods.
Yeah, and Donald and I have a fundamental disagreement. We're both atheists because I do not think the atheist can disprove God. Donald thinks he can disprove God, and I don't think anybody can prove or disprove God.
I agree. Like, as an atheist, I think that like it's because like you could associate it, like the mind is like tries to find the common and things that relate, and people associate anything with God when half the time it's not, man. It's just like you going about your fucking day. So it's so up to like perception and how you just interpretation that you'll never be 100% right or wrong. I think people just want something to
You mean about God or anything?
Anything.
No, that's not true, sir. I can prove that one to you right now, sir. If I hold your head underwater for 24 hours and you don't get medical treatment, you are dead and cannot be brought back to life, correct?
The Bible says otherwise.
Okay, what the Bible says about holding someone's head underwater for 24 hours without medical treatment. No. Tell me where the Bible says that.
I thought he just said he was atheist.
Tell me where the Bible says you can hold someone's head underwater for 24 hours without medical treatment and they will be brought back to life. Where does the Bible say that?
Where doesn't actually say that?
Okay, then your statement is false. Thank you.
Wait,
Yeah, I'm waiting. Go ahead.
It doesn't have to say that. You know what I'm saying? Like
You said the Bible says otherwise.
Yeah. Well, I think the Bible.
Well, if the Bible says otherwise, it has to say otherwise.
The Bible implies a lot of things.
Yeah, the Bible implies a shitload, but it says nothing about holding someone's head underwater for 24 hours. That's all.
But we don't know the miracles that God does.
I'm only talking about what the Bible says. Okay, you know what? I said what I had to.
My boy, that was crazy.
The power of Christ compels.
Retreat, bro. Don't do that.
I just did retreat.
Not you, Steve. I'm telling Rashad.
Rashad. Yeah, Rashad, you don't want to argue with Uncle Steve. Trust me.
No, it's not really not he's going to argue with you or anybody else. Just what he's saying. They're telling him to stop saying that.
Yeah.
I wasn't arguing.
Well, I'm glad.
I don't argue with none of y'all. It's not that deep.
No, good. I'm glad that too.
Well, it's deep enough to hold your head underwater. That's how deep it is.
Yeah, we're just having a conversation. It's not that serious.
Fair enough. You want another one? I'll give Rashad. I'll give you another one. If you take a razor blade, you slit your wrist, you let all the blood drain out from you, and then you wait 24 hours with medical treatment, you are dead and not being back to life. There's certainty proof number 2.
I don't know about that. I can't really say that.
I'm telling you about that since you don't know and I do.
You know what I'm saying? Look,
No. You said you don't know. I do know, Rashad.
Wait. Because you did it before?
Rashad, have you ever... Hang on, Rashad. Are you aware of any biological living organism that has been dead for a certain amount of time being brought back to life?
Earthworms.
What?
Earthworms.
Brought back to life?
Earthworms. Jesus.
Yeah, because of earthworms. That's what it said.
You can freeze an earthworm, and earthworm will thaw and be.
It's not dead.
Yeah, let's talk about earthworms. Just if I may.
An earth hibernation is different, right? So, Rashad, okay, in the medical field, when a human being dies and they're pronounced dead, there has not been any record of any human being being brought back to life. Do you accept that? Or do you think there's a possibility that a human being that is pronounced dead and is going to be either cremated in a day or so or placed into a casket, into the ground, or whatever form of burial they're going to go through, that body can come back to life? Do you think that can happen?
Within the past 1,000 years.
Wait. So you said there is documentation?
No, I said there is not any. Do you know of any?
Yes. In the Bible.
Oh my God, that's not medical record. That is not medical. That is not medical record. Are you a God believer?
JCC. What did he say, JCC?
He said in the Bible.
And what I said was within the past 1,000 years.
Yeah, and he's trolling. Anyway.
I'm saying